only impossible until we decide that they're not anymore. Today is the day we decide. Now, this is the mission statement from scientist, activist, and icon David Suzuki as he tours Canada this fall. The Blue Dot Tour is David's way of bringing Canadians together to stand up for our planet and hopefully change the way our country will fight for environmental rights. David will be speaking tonight at the University of Calgary. We're so glad he's joining us this morning. And you're traveling around with some of your closest friends, a whole who's who, slew of Canadian musicians.
It's quite amazing. As I was saying earlier, when Neil Young said, "Yes, I'll come on board," then everybody wanted to jump on board, and a lot of them are touring now, or I think they would have joined up as well. But we had Bruce Cockburn last night in Edmonton, and of course all the way along Blue Rodeo and Bare Naked Ladies, and yeah, it's been quite a lineup. But also Stephen Lewis, Margaret Atwood is going to be in Vancouver. Bob Bateman, the artist, is coming. Roy Henry Vickers is joining us in Prince George. This is a broad movement. This is not an environmental thing. It's about how we're living in this country, and we believe that Canadians should have the right to expect that we guarantee access to clean air, clean water, and clean food. This should be a Canadian right. And it's not kind of a loony idea.
Right.
More than half of all countries in the world guarantee that in their constitutions.
Where are we in Canada? I mean, it seems like we're falling further and further behind when it comes to the rest of the world. And why?
I don't think Canadians have any idea what our reputation is internationally.
Right.
During the 90s, of course, Canada was one of the leading countries really committed to doing things about the environment. The problem is that when the economy is shaky, as it has been since 2008, then people get all worried about their primary things, which is a job and being able to put food on the table. But underlying that, if you poll Canadians, the vast majority, 95%, say, of course, nature is important to my identity and my well-being. 85% of Canadians in polls say, of course, this should be in our Constitution. So that's what we're trying to do, is to remind people, if you don't have air for 3 minutes, you're dead.
Right.
If you have to breathe polluted air, you're sick. So can we not put clean air as one of the highest priorities of our country? Clean water.
I mean, I just always have the question, why? Why do we not react to this crisis the way that we react to other crises? Is it because it's so seemingly slow moving? Is it because it seems so overwhelming? Why?
I think part of it is that it's a slow motion crisis. When you hit the wall and people are bleeding, we respond very, very well.
Right.
That's how we evolved to respond to an immediate crisis.
Yes.
When you look at something like toxic pollution from using toxic pesticides, or when you look at something like climate change, you know, the impact today or before the next election is probably not going to be that great. And so politicians who are concerned about the next election can leave that aside and just focus on the immediate things to make sure they get reelected. So I think the fact that it's not taking place fast enough, even though climatologists are saying with climate change, it's happening way faster than we ever imagined. And when you go to the Arctic, the Inuit have been telling us for 30 years, the Arctic is changing.
So tonight you're at the U of C with Greg Keeler is there, Royal Wood is there, and you're talking about a plan that you're hoping that people can integrate into their lives in a very concrete way.
We're asking people to get involved if they care, especially about their children and grandchildren. This is an issue that has huge implications for future generations. And politicians, I think, tend to be much more short-sighted, looking from election to election. So we're asking parents, grandparents, to concern themselves with the future of their children, start a movement in your local community, get a local council, and I think you've got a good council here in Calgary, to start passing a declaration for environmental health, which makes a commitment to passing local legislation. Then we'll go to the province and say, hey, you should be doing this at the provincial level, and then we'll go to the feds for a constitutional amendment. That's our plan.
And I know you have faith that we can do this, and so do I.
Absolutely.
So thank you for taking your show on the road. BlueDot.ca for more information, and links as always, breakfasttelevision.ca. David Suzuki, thank you so much for coming by today.
My pleasure.
We're going to check in with Jill.